Everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. There's some interesting report out now from another report from OpenVault on broadband usage, and there's some interesting stats in there about the increase in the number of people on gigabit plans, the increase in super power users, how much they're using, and also some interesting stats broken down for Affordable Connectivity Program and bandwidth usage there. So I'll be right back to share those numbers. Thanks for joining me, Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So wanted to share this. I've talked about this report in the past. They've got, this is from OpenVault. They've got their second quarter report out now, their Broadband Insights report. OpenVault's a company that provides bandwidth usage management solutions, and they do a lot of that on a cloud basis where they're seeing a lot of the data that's coming through as far as bandwidth usage, and they can take that and aggregate the numbers and report on that. So that's what we're looking at today, and I thought there was some interesting stuff in here. So you see here in the intro, power users, I may have to read over here. Well, it's not too bad. Power users stream 6 times more data than the average broadband user. That's 2.2 terabytes of data per month. Is that right? Yeah, 2.2 terabytes of data per month, according to first of its kind breakout of broadband consumption by application category in this report. This report highlights consumers' continued migration to higher speed plans. So they've seen that over time, and we certainly know that and expect that people are migrating from slower speed plans to higher speed plans. In some cases, they're just being put on higher speed plans. They may have been on a 300 meg plan, and suddenly their provider says, hey, guess what? You're on 500 meg now, or they were on 500. Guess what? You're on a gig now. So we see some of that happening. So we certainly, again, that's not unexpected. The gig tier now constitutes nearly 32% of all subscribers, more than doubling in size year over year. The report also shows marked differences in usage behavior between fully subsidized and partially subsidized participants in the ACP, and details how both types of participants continue to use more data than average unsubsidized subscribers. So that's something that OpenVault's seen in the past with ACP, but they've broken it down now by fully and partially subsidized, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So very interesting data there. So you see some of the key findings here. So on usage, the monthly weighted average data consumed by subscribers in second quarter 23 was 500, and I'm gonna have to look over here, 533.8 gigabytes, up 9% from second quarter. Average of 490.7 gigabytes. Key ARPU, or average revenue per user insight. This is, if FRB is fixed rate broadband, that would be a provider that is charging just a fixed rate for everybody, no matter how much they use. Pretty much, you get a certain amount. Those FRB, or fixed rate broadband operators, have over 2 times more subscribers than usage-based operators, usage-based billing operators, and speed tiers below 200 megs. So that's 37.1% versus 18.4%. We'll see some charts here in a minute. So fixed rate broadband, you would expect them to have you would expect them to attract people that are using more bandwidth because they're not getting penalized or charged for that, right? So if you have 2 providers in an area, and one is doing fixed rate billing and one is doing usage-based billing, you would expect those that are using a lot of bandwidth to go with the fixed rate provider. But it's very possible that these fixed rate providers don't have gigabit plans, because maybe they haven't instituted usage-based billing because they can only give people so much bandwidth. I don't know if that's what that has to do, because again, you would expect the fixed rate users, or the fixed rate broadband providers, I should say, to attract the high bandwidth users because they can get a flat rate from one provider and they're going to be charged more with another provider if they are, let's say, power users or super power users as they identify them in here. So I'm not sure how that all breaks out, but I think that's interesting that it seems like the fixed rate broadband providers have more people in the slower tiers, but it may be that that's what they offer. They don't have anything much over, let's say, 200 meg. Power users, they call super power users consuming 2 terabytes or more per month. That increased by 26% since second quarter 2022. Key bandwidth usage insight among power users of 1 terabyte or more data per month, 16% of data usage is from gaming. So they've got their superpower users of 2 terabytes or more, 1 terabyte or more would be a power user, and 16% of that data usage is from gaming, which is surprising to me. And I guess it's changed over time, because I remember when gaming was not that big of a bandwidth hog, and maybe that's because the bandwidth was just not that plentiful, and you wouldn't want it to have to be bandwidth intensive back in the olden days. So at that time, a lot of the gaming software, it resided on a gaming computer, which I think people still use. Obviously, they have fast PCs and laptops. But a lot of the graphic intensive stuff took place on the local machine, and then it was just basically transmitting telemetry data back and forth between the gaming server. And the gaming server then displayed all of that. So you didn't have a lot of bandwidth going back and forth. But I'm thinking now, the way they define some of these gaming applications, a lot of that's now taking place up in the cloud and not having that software necessarily residing locally. So that would make a big increase in the bandwidth that's taking place. And it looks like it's showing here as far as these power users, and 16% of that being from gaming. Speed tiers, the percentage of subscribers on gigabit speed tiers more than doubled over the previous year, reaching 31.6% in the second quarter. So over doubled. And again, some of that may be from operators that didn't have gigabit tiers before that now do. Some of that may be customers just using more bandwidth and thinking they need that, and then migrating themselves to that plan. It could be operators that have increased to a gigabit and then migrated people automatically that were on their highest plan before. So I don't know again how that breaks down. But obviously more providers, as you see more fiber out there, more providers are able to provide gigabit. And as providers increase their bandwidth to the internet, as they increase the technology that they have on their core networks, they can maybe afford to upgrade that. But as we see, it's important to know as an internet service provider, I see a gigabit tier as a marketing checkbox, because most people don't need gigabit internet. Now, again, we've got some of these super power users that are in those plans, and they're using lots of bandwidth. But for most people, they're just fine with the kind of things that they're doing on lower speed plans. And you need to realize that if you're going to give everybody a gigabit, then people are going to use what you give them, especially if they're going to be doing lots of streaming and those kinds of things. So just something to be aware of as you are looking to enter into this and try to compete with others in the market. You want to get that checkbox, or you want to exceed. A lot of times it's the fiber provider that says, hey, we're going to go ahead and compete by saying we have a gigabit plan when our competitor can't come close to that or match that. Well, you need to realize that it's going to cost you more, as users are going to be using more of this bandwidth. Let's see, key usage-based billing versus fixed-rate billing insight. Annual average usage growth for usage-based billing networks was 11.8%, was nearly 3 times more than fixed-rate billing networks or 4%. So annual average usage. So again, here, usage growth for usage billing-based networks was 3 times that of fixed-rate broadband networks. So while there's, again, a lot of these fixed-rate folks are they have like lower speeds, it seems like, for some reason. But they're growing. The ones that are doing usage-based billing are growing more. So again, it may be that these operators have higher speeds than a lot of those that are on fixed rate billing plans. So they maybe would be growing faster because they have higher speeds. Again, can't dig into the details. This is the broadband usage key findings for the second quarter. So you see here, data usage trends by billing type. So they've got here average weighted data, average fixed rate billing, and average usage-based billing. And you can see here as you're looking at it, so these are the quarters. So the dark blue is the second quarter of last year. Then we've got first quarter of this year in the orangish color. And then we've got this past quarter, second quarter of 2023. Again, you've got average weighted data, average fixed rate billing, and average usage-based billing. And you see the patterns pretty much look the same on all 3 of these. So basically what you've had here in the quarters is you had second quarter, you can see there was an increase here. And then this was really interesting, where you've got, we got to look at it this way, because this is wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused here. So this is first quarter and this is second quarter. So there was actually a little tick down, which I think mentions here, is consistent with historical second quarter seasonal patterns. So we're just seeing that happen there. And then this is median usage. So this one is data usage trends. This is median usage by billing type. So again, we've got the same thing. We've got the median weighted average, median fixed rate billing, median usage-based billing. And then we've got our quarters here in these colors. So you've got basically, again, the patterns look pretty similar, although you're seeing it getting closer here on your first quarter and second quarter as far as your median usage-based billing. So I linked to this. You can download this report. I've got a link in the description of this video. You can download it and check out this in more detail. But you see here the monthly weighted median usage was for second quarter was 348 gigabytes, up from 10.7% from 314 gigabytes a year ago. A median usage among usage-based subscribers surpassed that of fixed-rate billing subscribers for the first time. So that's very interesting that, again, the median usage-based billing those people that are paying for their bandwidth are actually now using more. So that's not historically been the case. Generally, when you had a usage-based billing situation, those folks were using less, again, because they could maybe go to a fixed-rate broadband provider and not have to pay as much. But now, the usage-based billing folks, their people are actually using more bandwidth. And again, one reason for that may be that the fixed-rate folks don't have maybe some of the higher speed plans, or as many of those have higher speed plans. And this is good for the usage-based billing folks because, that's one of the problems with fixed-rate billing is you'd prefer people not use that much bandwidth because you're not charging them for it. So if you've got somebody doing kind of minimal kinds of broadband things and you've got a really super power user doing 2 terabytes of data per month, you're charging them both the same. But if you are doing usage-based billing, then you're getting compensated for those people that are using more bandwidth. So if you're a usage-based billing person, you don't go, oh no, they're using more bandwidth. Generally, you're going, yay, they're using more bandwidth. I'm going to get more revenue. And it's fair, right? It's not like they're robbing people because people are using more of their service. They're consuming more resources. Just like I've said in the past, if you have water service from your local water company and you've got you and your wife and you do your normal amount of laundry, you wash the car maybe once a month, like I do or less. You don't have a sprinkler system, and then your neighbor across the street has 7 in the home with 5 teenagers taking long showers, and he's got a sprinkler system, and they've got 3 cars, and they're all washing the cars, and it's kind of, you don't want to be paying the same amount as your neighbor. Well, it's the same thing here. It's fair. If you're not using that much broadband service, you would like to pay a lower price than those people that are using more. So that makes sense. Bandwidth usage growth. So we see here the percentage of power users, again, that would be greater than 1 terabyte per month now is nearly 8 times greater than it was 5 years ago, 15% versus 1.8%. And again, this is not a surprise because 5 years ago we had far fewer people that were on high-speed plans it was really hard to transfer a terabyte per month probably. And a lot of the content, a lot of streaming video has really increased since that time. So there are people that were getting their video via cable TV, standard QAM video or IPTV or whatever, and not streaming it over the top on their internet connection. And today, lots and lots of people have cut the cord. So all the video that they're watching could be HD, 4K, whatever, coming through Netflix, Disney Plus, and then we talk about the gaming category and how that may have changed. So not surprising to see this increase. And you can see here in the chart, so you've got right here, if you look at what's increased and decreased, this is the lowest category here. So this is your 0 to 100 gigs. And you can see where that started out here back this is second quarter of 2018, where it was 50%. And now it's way down here. And that's a difference of minus 53%, basically. That's what that's saying. And then here you've got the next category. This doesn't look like it's changed much. This is 100 to 500 gig. And while there's fewer people doing that, the actual percentage or the amount of that has not changed. It's only down 2%. So you can see that hasn't changed much. Then as we get to these higher speeds, you're going to see these are growing. So you've got your next one up 500 to 1 terabyte. And that's up 161%. You can see here where it was and here where it is now. And then you've got your next one up 1 to 2 terabytes of usage. And that is up 658%. So you can see there was not much of that going on back here. Then you got your really high ones, you're over 2 terabytes of service, super power users, and you can see that was pretty much non-existent back then, and it's now up. That's plus 2,690%. It doesn't look like much, but that's because it started out as nothing. So it's still a small percentage of obviously of the total users, but that small percentage has increased a whole lot if you want to look at it that way. So that's an interesting chart. Here we've got power users monthly consumption in the second quarter. Percentage of power users consuming 1 terabyte or more per month in 2023 was 15.6%, a year-over-year increase of 14.5%. Super power users consuming 2 terabytes or more per month rose 2.8% in the second quarter from 2.2% a year earlier, a 26.2% year-over-year increase. And you can see that here. So you've got your superpower guys at 2 terabytes, then you've got your 1 terabyte guys. And you don't really see much of a difference here between your usage-based billing operators, your fixed-rate billing operators, and the weighted average here. So this is pretty consistent here. Provision broadband speeds. This is something else that would not be a surprise as we see more people getting faster plans. So you can see here the percentage of subscribers on gigabit speed tiers reached 31.6% in the second quarter, an all-time high, and more than twice the percentage observed just a year ago when it was 4.2%. There are now 3.5 times more usage-based billing subscribers, 44.5%, than fixed billing broadband subscribers, 12.5%. Provision for gig speeds, the widest gap observed thus far. And fixed rate billing operators have 2 times more subscribers than usage-based billing subscribers in the speed tiers below 200 megabytes per second, which we had looked at earlier. 37.1% versus 18.4%. So here you see you've got your gig tier. This is your 500 by 900 tier. This is kind of the sweet spot for a lot of operators, your 200 to 400 megabits per second. Then you got your 100 to 200. You got your 50 to 100. And you've got your less than 50. And in some cases, again, here, there are some operators that maybe they can't offer a whole lot more than this. So this is not all fiber operators, and certainly there are going to be some operators that are constricted on bandwidth, and even though they can't offer much to their customers, they still want to track that and make sure that they're, could be charging for it, or just making sure that they can have some kind of measures in place, because you can do a couple of different things. You can charge people for bandwidth, or you can have usage quotas, and then when they hit a certain quota at the end of sometime in a month, you can throttle that back so that they're not using as much. There's different things you can do, but you can see here how this has changed over time. Whoops. And this is applications driving data traffic. So this is the first time OpenVault's looked at this. So you see they've got categories of social media. Gaming, like we talked about, is a big thing now, especially, I guess, bandwidth apparently for gaming now is a big thing. And then streaming. Streaming obviously has grown over time, as people have cut the cord and more people are streaming long-form video. The social media would include things like short-form videos, so Facebook, TikTok, those kinds of things. But this streaming would be more of your long-form stuff. So we see here we've got your power users 1 terabyte. It's really interesting how the power users are very different here. So those that are greater than a terabyte, 72% are doing streaming, 16% are doing the gaming. So again, your power users, those are using the most bandwidth. Gaming seems to be a lot of what's causing that. Then you've got 9% doing social media, and then other, you see right there, not specified. Your average user, kind of again, that sweet spot of 400 to 600 gigs, 74% are doing streaming. So that's a big percentage for them, but about the same as the power users here, but only 4% gaming. So you can see the significant difference there. And then 20% social media. So they're spending more time doing the social media stuff. And again, a lot of that is short form kind of video things. They're on Facebook, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, looking at pictures, videos, those kinds of things. Then you've got your light users, those that are less than 100 gigs, and most of them are doing streaming. So interesting. That's what they're spending most of their time, yet they're light users. So again, we see gaming is taking a big percentage here. These streaming figures here are not that different. And here you've got your lighter guys doing 92%, 6% social media. So again, long form streaming, maybe shorter form streaming and social media, and then you've got the other there. So here's the ACP stuff, very interesting. So again, it talks about here the subsidies. So it talks about the $30 subsidy. So the ACP, that's something that came out with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It was $14 billion approximately that is meant to provide a subsidy to folks that are low income. There's different ways that they can qualify for that. And you can get $30. You can get a $30 subsidy. That's paid to the internet service provider, and then the service provider gives the internet customer the subsidy when they sign up for the plan. And a customer can sign up for anything. They don't need to sign up for some low-speed plan that costs $30. They can, if the provider offers a $30 plan, they can sign up for that and get it for free. If the provider offers a gig plan for, let's say, $80 a month, the customer can get a $30 subsidy and pay less for that. So they pay $50 instead of $80. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing that a lot of the folks on ACP, and I kind of suspected this, but we're seeing a lot of the folks on the ACP are actually not just getting the low speed plan, but they are applying that maybe to a higher speed plan that costs more. Now, it could be that the cheapest plan is, let's say, $40 a month, and they get a $30 subsidy. So they're only partially subsidized in that case. But I don't think, as you look at the data here that we're about to look at, the partially subsidized people are using lots of bandwidth, even more than the folks that are fully subsidized. So I think they are actually upgrading their plans to something faster. And then in addition, there's this $30 subsidy. But if you happen to be on tribal lands, it's $75. So it could be that somebody with $75, they can get something, maybe even a gig at that kind of cost. So with $75 that they can apply towards that. So here's the figures broken down. So you can see ACP versus non-ACP data usage in the second quarter. So you've got here's your non-ACP folks. So you're looking at 513.8, I guess that's gigabytes. And that would be for your non-ACP per month. But your ACP fully subsidized are actually higher than that. They're 18.2% higher than that at 607.5. And those that are partially subsidized are up to 722.4 gigabytes. That's 40.6% more than your non-ACP. So again, folks that are on the Affordable Connectivity Plan are using more bandwidth. So they're making use of what they're getting. And again, I think this indicates that those partially subsidized folks are paying for a higher priced broadband plan, getting a $30 subsidy. And as I mentioned, there's lots of ways to qualify for the ACP. And I'm sure there are a good number of folks that could afford broadband, a slower speed broadband, that are taking the subsidy and getting a higher speed package for that, because there are lots of ways to qualify for that. And we see kind of that reflected in the numbers here. ACP versus non-ACP speed tiers, usage comparison. So what we're looking at here is we've got the different tiers. So again, if we're looking at partially subsidized and non-ACP, for some reason they don't have the fully subsidized other than down here. And that may be because those that are fully subsidized, this is all that they're able to get. So they get the $30. And again, if you take tribal out of it, $75, that's a smaller percentage. I think that might be 1 or 2% of all ACP users, if I remember. So if you take that out, then the folks that are fully subsidized maybe are getting a 50 to 75 meg kind of plan, speed tier. So they get that fully subsidized, and it's not as fast as they could purchase if they wanted. They can get any plan they want, but they may stick with this lower one here. They can't afford anything more. So you see that's listed down here on these others. You can see the number of folks that have got 1 gig, I should say the percentage, 1 gig, 500 to 900, and 200 to 300. So these are people that are partially subsidized. They're paying some amount on top of the subsidy, let's say the $30 subsidy that they get. And across the board, they're using more bandwidth than your non-ACP users. Now, they're a small percentage compared to the ACP users. There's a percentage of those, so that could have something to do with it. But across the board, again, when you look at it, averaged out, they are using more bandwidth per month than your non-ACP users. And then I was going to show this. This is This is their average broadband household index. What was this? I just passed here. Oh, those are just some industry observations that you can check out if you want. Then there's their average broadband household index. So this just gives you kind of a snapshot of what they saw here. So you've got the average US broadband household used 533.8 gigs average bandwidth usage. The average downstream usage was 503.7 gigs. Average upstream usage, 36.1 gig. And then the average downstream speed, 498 megabits per second. Average upstream speed, 35.8 megabits per second. So these are really good numbers. Obviously, with the BEAD program, everything we're trying to do, we're trying to get broadband over 100 by 20, at least 100 by 20, and over, for everybody in the country. If we get fiber to an area, 100 by 20, there's no reason they can't do 100 by 100 or a gig service if you can get fiber to somebody. So we're trying to get fiber out to as many people as we can. And as we do that, we're going to see these numbers rise even more. But you can see here, across all of these folks that are using OpenVault's broadband usage services, and that's obviously, it's not, there's no scientific poll here. It's not something that you could say this is across the board, but it's interesting that out of everybody that they're serving, these numbers are good. So you've got, again, almost 500 meg down service and 35.8 up. And again, as we get more fiber, there's going to be more symmetrical service. So we're going to see these upstream numbers climb. And cable operators are going to make up a large portion of this, and cable operators are able to provide good download speeds. They're much more limited on the upstream than fiber currently. They're getting in place where they can increase those numbers quite a bit with DOCSIS. Those that are fully implementing DOCSIS 3.1 and moving to DOCSIS 4.0 are able to get much higher upload speeds and eventually close to symmetrical with DOCSIS 4.0, maybe 6 by 6 symmetrical, 6 gig by 6 gig symmetrical eventually. Not that anybody's going to be getting that right away, but DOCSIS will be helping, and then more fiber going in the ground. We're going to see these upstream numbers start to climb as well. Now these are speeds, so this is not necessarily usage. So people will have more ability to transfer uploads to the upstream than they do today. That doesn't necessarily mean that the upstream usage is going to climb as fast, because again, as I've mentioned in the past, upstream, that's another, symmetrical service, that's another marketing checkbox, because most people don't need a lot of upstream traffic. Even what I'm doing today, I don't need a gig upstream. I'm streaming something and I don't need that. I am sending more stuff upstream right now than I'm receiving. Normally, though, I'm receiving stuff. I'm streaming entertainment stuff and downloading web pages, watching videos, those kinds of things. So the downstream is really what's important. The upstream is getting more important, but still, as we increase the amount of bandwidth on the upstream, it's not going to, the upstream usage is not going to increase as much as we see the ability to transfer upstream is going to increase, because a lot of that is really not as needed as it is on the downstream. Again, it's a marketing checkbox to say, hey, I have symmetrical service. I can give you a gig upstream, when most people don't need anywhere near that. So something to remember. All right. Well, thanks for joining me. Very interesting numbers here. And, especially with the ACP, we'd seen in the past that ACP users are using more bandwidth. And it's interesting to see the difference between those that are partially subsidized and fully subsidized. Also interesting to see the growth in gigabit tiers and the growth in super users and power users and superpower users. So the 1 terabyte and the 2 terabyte. And we're going to see more of that as more people are streaming and apparently more gaming. This is news to me. I didn't realize that gaming was actually using that much bandwidth these days, but apparently is. Apparently it's a big chunk of bandwidth, as we saw. And we saw that streaming was not as big a deal for some of those that were in some of those other tiers. Appreciate you joining me. If this was interesting, if you give me a like on the video. If you're not subscribed to our channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Click the bell to be notified when I'm live. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.